When we think about the birth of civilization, the same names always appear. Egypt, Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley. History textbooks tell us a simple story. Civilization began in the deserts, along great rivers, under kings, priests, and armies. Europe, we are told, was late to the game. A land of forests, small tribes, stone tools, no cities, no order. But this story is incomplete. Because long before Rome laid its first stone, long before Athens spoke of democracy, a forgotten civilization was already rising. Not in the south, not in the east, but in the very heart of Europe. Close your eyes. Travel back 7,000 years. The year is 5,400 BC. The world looks different. Mammoths are gone. Ice sheets have retreated. Humanity is learning to settle, to farm, to build. Across what is now Ukraine, Romania, and Moldova, small farming communities begin to appear. At first, nothing seems unusual. Simple houses, clay walls, wooden frames. But something is happening beneath the surface. These people are not just surviving, they are planning. The land they inhabit is extraordinary. Rich black soil, endless plains, flowing rivers. This region is one of the most fertile on Earth. Crops grow easily, livestock thrives. For the first time, food is not a daily struggle. And when humans no longer fight hunger, they begin to think, to imagine, to organize, to create. This abundance would change everything. For thousands of years, their story remained buried. No myths, no legends, nothing written. It wasn't until the late 19th century that archaeologists made a shocking discovery. Beneath the soil of Eastern Europe lay the remains of massive cities. Cities older than the pyramids. Cities no one expected to exist. And history was forced to ask a dangerous question. What if Europe was never primitive at all? What if it was simply forgotten? What archaeologists uncovered next would completely rewrite the history of civilization. Because these were not villages, they were cities. When archaeologists first began excavating these sites, they expected something familiar. Small farming villages, a few dozen houses, primitive tools. That was the assumption. After all, this was Europe, 7,000 years ago. According to everything we thought we knew, cities simply did not exist here yet. But the deeper they dug, the more that assumption collapsed. What emerged from the soil was not a village, it was a city plan. Not random, not chaotic, perfectly organized. Houses arranged in concentric circles, streets forming deliberate patterns. At the center, open communal spaces. This was not accidental growth, this was urban planning. Thousands of years before Rome, thousands of years before Athens. Then came the measurements, and that's when disbelief set in. Some Trypillia settlements stretched over 250, 300, even 400 hectares. Archaeologists realized something terrifying. These were mega settlements. Some likely housed 20,000 to 40,000 people, at a time when most human communities numbered a few hundred at best. For comparison, London in the Middle Ages was smaller. These were among the largest cities on Earth in their time. There were no stone walls, no marble columns, no monuments carved to last forever. Trypillia cities were built from wood, clay, and earth. Houses carefully aligned, often 2 stories tall. Thousands of structures, rebuilt again and again on the same sacred ground. This wasn't primitive construction. It required coordination, planning, shared rules, a society working together on a massive scale. And that's when historians were forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. If these cities existed, if tens of thousands lived here, then civilization in Europe did not begin late. It began differently. And what came next would challenge something even deeper. Because these cities had no kings, no palaces, no thrones, no armies, only people. And somehow, it worked. When archaeologists uncover an ancient city, they look for power, palaces, thrones, royal tombs. Somewhere there is always a ruler, someone at the top, someone who commands, someone who takes more than the rest. That is how civilizations usually work. So researchers searched and searched. But in Trypillia, power was nowhere to be found. There were no massive central buildings, no elevated structures dominating the city, no graves filled with gold or weapons, no evidence of kings, no queens, no dynasties. Every house was different in decoration, but similar in size. No one lived like a god. No one lived like a slave. This was not an empire. It was something far more unusual, a society that functioned without hierarchy. And here is the question that still haunts historians. How do you govern a city of tens of thousands without laws carved in stone, without soldiers, without prisons? The answer may be uncomfortable. Trypillia likely ruled itself through tradition, shared belief, and cooperation. Social pressure replaced force. Community replaced authority. Survival depended not on domination, but on trust. Power in Trypillia was not vertical. It was horizontal. Shared rituals, shared labor, shared responsibility. Homes were rebuilt together. Fields were worked together. Knowledge passed orally, generation to generation. In a violent ancient world, they chose balance. And perhaps that is why they were forgotten. History remembers conquerors. It remembers empires. It remembers kings and wars. Trypillia left no empire, only cities built on cooperation. And history did not know how to tell their story. But they left something behind, something that speaks across 7,000 years, their art. Trypillia left behind no writing, no chronicles, no laws carved in stone, no names of rulers. And yet, they spoke, not with words, but with symbols. Thousands of artifacts emerged from the soil, bowls, plates, figurines, each one covered in patterns that refuse to stay silent. Their ceramics are unlike anything else from the ancient world. Red, black, white, endless spirals, flowing lines, interlocking shapes. These were not decorations, they were ideas. Many scholars believe the spirals represent cycles of life: birth, growth, death, rebirth. Time not as a line, but as a circle. Among the most haunting objects are the figurines. Human forms, mostly female, wide hips, elongated bodies, abstract faces. Some believe they represent fertility, others see ancestors or spiritual guardians. There is no sign of warrior gods, no weapons, no domination, only creation. Compare this to other ancient civilizations. Gods of thunder, gods of conquest, gods demanding sacrifice. Trypillia art tells a different story, a world centered on balance, nature, and continuity. This was a civilization that worshipped life itself. But their most powerful symbol was not carved in clay. It was written in fire. Archaeology is like reading a book written in dirt. Each layer of soil is a page, and in Trypillia the pages repeat over and over again. A city is built, then burned. Above the ashes, a new city rises, then burned again. This pattern appears not once, not twice, but dozens of times. At first, archaeologists assumed destruction by enemies, fire from invasion, fire from chaos, but the evidence refused to agree. There were no mass graves, no weapons, no signs of panic. The burning was controlled, deliberate, systematic. Entire houses burned evenly, from floor to roof. This was not destruction. It was intentional transformation. Many scholars now believe the burning was ritual, a ceremonial end to a generation. Every 60 to 80 years, roughly one human lifetime, when elders passed, the city followed. Fire purified the old world to make room for the new. Ash returned the city to the earth, and from that earth, life began again. In modern culture, fire means loss. To Trypillia, fire meant continuity. Nothing was permanent. Not homes, not cities, only the cycle mattered. Build, live, burn, rebuild. A civilization that accepted impermanence thousands of years before Buddhism would speak of it. Imagine a civilization that did not seek immortality. No monuments meant to last forever, no empires carved in stone. Only memory, only tradition, only fire. Perhaps that is why they disappeared so completely. Because when a civilization leaves no monuments, history eventually stops looking for it. Most civilizations end in fire and blood. Cities are conquered, kings are overthrown, empires collapse. Trypillia did none of that. There was no final battle, no enemy army marching through the streets, no moment history could point to and say, "This is the end." Their ending was quieter and far more unsettling. Over centuries, their great cities grew larger. More people, more houses, more mouths to feed. The land that once gave abundance began to strain. Forests were cut. Soil lost its strength. Climate patterns shifted. Drier seasons, unpredictable harvests. The balance they depended on slowly began to break. At the same time, new people arrived. Nomadic herders from the vast Eurasian steppes. They moved with animals, not cities. They carried weapons, horses, mobility, a different way of life. There is little evidence of massive war, but there is evidence of pressure, of displacement, of worlds colliding. Faced with change, Trypillia did something unexpected. They did not fight. They did not build walls. They left. City by city, the mega-settlements were abandoned. The fires stopped. The circles broke. The people did not vanish. They blended. Their traditions dissolved into new cultures. Their names were forgotten, but traces of them lived on, quietly. And with that, Europe's first great civilization faded into silence. Or so we thought. History is not written by the first civilizations. It is written by the loudest ones, the ones who conquered, the ones who built empires, the ones who carved their names in stone. Trypillia did none of that. They left no kings, no monuments, no armies. And because of that, history almost erased them. Trypillia proves something radical. Civilization does not require domination. Cities can exist without violence. Societies can thrive without kings. Progress does not always mean conquest. 7,000 years ago in Europe, humans tried a different path. Their cities returned to the earth. Their art survived in fragments. Their story waited in silence. But their idea remains. That balance is possible. That power does not have to rule from above. That civilization can be human. This was the story of Europe's first lost civilization. And this is History Reborn AI.